Good evening. This is the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of May 23rd, 2024. If everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I'm going to take attendance of the board members. Are we waiting for Robert?
I did not hear from Rob, so I think we can start, and he can join us when he arrives.
Cool.
Yeah.
Jim Bonanno is here. Mr. Phil Nemisak.
Present.
Lauren Goodrich.
Present.
Joseph Rubino.
Present.
And Michael Fortuno could not be here tonight. So the first is just a little bit of housekeeping. Can we all approve the minutes? Well, Phil, thank you for the comments. Can all of us approve that one, the meeting minutes?
Yep. Subject to the modest revisions I circulated yesterday.
Great, thank you. So I make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 25th, 2024 Planning Board meeting, subject to Phil's comments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So there's two applications that we're not going to hear from tonight. And they are the application 2330, 249 Main Street, and 27 New Street. That's one application that was here last month that we're not going over this tonight. And the other is application 23-38, 210 Hillside Place. The applications we are going to address are 64 Hickory Hill, 42 Maple Street Subdivision. It's 360.
Did you say Maple, 42 Maple Avenue?
Yes, correct.
Okay, got it.
And then 360 White Plains Road, and then 203 Beach Street, in that order. Cool. So the first application, 24-17, 64 Hickory. What was the address? 64 Hickory Hill. Is that you? Okay.
Good evening, Chairman,
Good evening.
board members, and town staff. My name is Joe Fernandez. I'm the architect for the project, 575 White Plains Road, Eastchester, New York. We have an existing home here at 64 Hickory that we have an open permit now that we're doing some interior work and some work around the back of the house. We're currently in zoning for a family room in the rear yard. And for this board, we are changing the front elevation by more than 30%. We're proposing to remove the aluminum siding, some of the windows. We're going to expand and have a set of doors here that are going to go out onto a stone patio. We've increased some of the height here on the upper floor by a couple feet because it's really low there. So it's really kind of like a head knocker, and we're so far underneath the limitations of the zone that it'll be fine. And the garage door was also very tight, so we've provided an oversized door for that. The windows here will stay the same, and if you saw, if you saw on our elevations that we provided, so that those small little windows now become normal sized windows. This is going to be a set of pocketing glass doors which will disappear into a wall on the interior into this cavity here. Front door will stay in the same place. The garage door is a little wider, and these windows are actually staying the same height and width. They're just going to be new. We're proposing a new standing seam metal roof as well, but that's not part of the 30%.
Right, so it's everything below the standing seam, that's the 30%?
Correct.
That's what you're changing?
Correct.
So it's an existing standing seam? It's an existing
No,
roof?
no, that's going to be a new roof.
Oh,
I mentioned it's a new roof.
Got it.
And it looks like it's a much higher pitch, right?
It's got a higher pitch, yes. So because
Yeah.
Remember, we increased this on the end, and so to make it look right, we raised
Yeah,
the
because
ridge
otherwise it'd
another
be
couple
flat.
feet. Yeah, it would just be flat.
No.
It'd be a flat roof. So I think it's going to be a good addition to that neighborhood. There's a lot of construction that's happened there already. Some homes have already been really well done, and there's other construction that's happening across the street. So I think that this will just play into that as well.
Yeah, this is at the end of a cul-de-sac, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and I think,
it's not, yeah.
yeah, I think we approved a neighbor that's sort of across the street and a little further toward the end of the circle at the end of it.
Yeah.
We approved an application just a few months ago that was,
That's in construction now.
yes, that's what I figured you're talking about.
How much higher is the roof going to be compared to
Sorry?
the
How much higher
previous?
is
How
the
much higher is the roof going to be compared to the previous?
So it's going to be identical to what the height of this is. It's about 2 feet.
Okay.
The ridge will be 2 feet higher. But, I mean, we show calculations on the drawings, too, that show that I think we're like 3 or 3.5 feet below the maximum height.
Can you show us, do you have a landscape with the other homes in the area? Or some sort of illustration?
I have depictions of the other homes.
Okay. Streetscape, that's the word I'm looking for.
I'm sorry?
Streetscape.
Oh, streets, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, so this is like the very end of the cul-de-sac, and this guy is the one right across the street that I think you just mentioned.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? The immediate next-door neighbor is similar to what we have now, and this looks like it had a little bit of work. This was totally redone. That's kind of right across the street as well.
Here, show me on the little map there where the bigger house is and
So,
where
yes.
the application,
So
Yeah.
this home is the end.
the end,
Right?
okay?
We're here,
Yes,
and this home is this guy here.
got it.
And then the big construction is happening here in this very long lot, because they really have a big structure going on in the front. And then this clad home is right next to
there.
it, or
Okay.
kind of across the street.
Got it.
What about the home, I guess, up is north, plan north of your site?
This one?
That's right, I have that picture.
The opposite
The
side.
opposite side
Oh,
of your
that
site.
one
Yeah.
is, I don't have that one, but it's similar to, it's similar to
characterize
something like that. I didn't have a picture of that.
So could you just characterize the one on the bottom is the one down, the one on top, the different ridge heights of those, are they?
Yeah,
about?
so I mean, you could see, I mean, this is really,
Yeah,
it looks very large, and when you're on the street, it really does give a very high appearance, as does this as well at the very end, but they're,
Right, I guess we could take your word for it, but is what you're proposing closer to the white or the one on top of it?
So
Just
the
as-
white is where we are now,
Right.
roughly, that
Yeah.
kind of height, and so we would be somewhere in between the two.
Those two, okay,
This is,
Got it.
that's
all right, thank you. Yeah,
Google Maps. That's,
that makes sense, right?
yeah, so if you look, you scroll over this way, this is the
Let's see,
house
cool.
next to it.
Thank you. Oh, so it's comparable. It's gonna be a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, I think it's a nice addition. And it'll certainly improve the neighborhood, so thank you. I don't have any more comments.
Yeah, it looks, I think it's, well, I did want to ask you about those doors.
Yes.
And
I was gonna-
that row, yeah, you said that at some point it sort of becomes a wall.
Can
so
you go
tell me
back to that for the front face of the house?
Yeah, let me go back.
Did you say that was going to be sliding doors, or is it just windows?
So there's sliding doors,
They are.
yeah.
So is it just two sliding doors that one goes either way, or what?
It's actually,
Yeah.
there are 5 doors,
Mhm.
and they'll all just push in one direction. And so what happens is there's going to be a pocket inside the home, and you'll just see the edges of the doors.
So it could
So
be.
we've done these before where they kind of like bifold on themselves, and then little kids get hurt, with, they always need to touch something, so,
Well, that's not a good thing to be telling us. We care about children.
exactly, and that's why we have these doors, which pocket in, and all you see is the edge, the side edge of the door, so
So-
it's really slick.
Obviously, looking at the length of the 5 glass doors, they would have to fold up in some way in order,
No.
do they pocket sideways?
No, they just all go into this space here, they'll all go into basically a niche inside the house.
I think there's like
So
a
there's
little
a track
that
system
moves
that they
them.
that they
Right,
run
so
on.
They stack.
Okay, oh, so they don't go in straight, they somehow,
They go in straight.
okay, but at some point they have to fold
You'll have
into
to
each
come
other?
and see it. You'll
Because
you'll be amazed.
I'm just having a difficult time
Goes one
with the
behind
geometry.
the other as it gets stacked into
Right.
place.
What's that?
It gets one behind the other as it slides into
So in
place.
the end, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's what's in there. They don't just go
Oh,
across like
okay,
this.
okay, I got it.
And there are other manufacturers that do that, and we've learned our lessons with kids getting hurt, so we try to steer away from
So
that.
kids are not going to get hurt with this one?
Not with this.
All right, that's
No.
important.
So I guess the intent is the front entrance of this alteration is the door with the steps, and then ideally, there could be an occasion where the entire front 5 doors will be open as well as that area.
Correct, and this is a stone patio in the front, which doesn't exist
Separate patio, got it,
currently.
okay. So it's separate
So-
from the entrance,
Yeah, but it's on the same platform,
Understood.
so, yeah.
okay.
I know it's not a requirement of a renovation like this, but are you going to put some sort of landscaping in front of the new porch area?
In front of
Yeah.
this, yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's obviously, I think that's the scene stealer here, that row of glass, and the brightness I'm sure it will bring into the house, and it certainly gives it a much newer, more contemporary feel to it.
Yeah, and the home now, I mean, just so, which I'm sure you can imagine, the small bay window, I mean, it's dark. It's very dark in there. And so now there'll be this nice flood of light, and I think it'll be rather nice.
I think so too. I know we're talking about the doors. Is there a landscape? It doesn't have to be, but is there a landscape plan?
We haven't gone that far yet.
Yet, but it's not something you're going to submit. It's not part of the site plan.
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
All right, good. We're going to do a public hearing, so hang on. I make a motion to open the public hearing on application 24-17, 64 Hickory Hill Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing as there are no comments, we're going to move on and,
You do have a comment. Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I
you
didn't
go.
look over there. Would you mind coming over? What's that? No, it's open to the public. That's you.
Yeah, this is exactly the portion of the hearing that we want to hear from members of the public.
Evening. My name is John Eichmeyer. That's Eickemeyer. I live at 15 Darcy Lane, which means that I am diagonally behind the property. In other words, their northwest corner is my southeast corner. I have no real issue with the renovations to the front and the side of the house. The previous owner, obviously, he was elderly, didn't keep it up as well as a lot of other homes have been kept up, and I welcome most of that. My concern relates to the proposal for the rear of the property, and I realize, I unfortunately was out of town when the zoning hearing on this was held last week, but I am concerned about the fact that what is now a 25-foot setback from the current structure is, according to the application, going to become a 17-foot setback. And I'd like to get some clarity as to whether that means that the entire structure will be, 17 feet setback, or whether the building itself plus whatever deck is planned, is the additional area going from the current structure going to be taken up by a deck or by, an actual structure? So that's one of my questions. My other question, and I don't know if it's really appropriate for this, but it is a concern. It's obvious that there will be significant demolition of the existing concrete patio floor and the existing patio structure at the back of the house in order to facilitate this construction. And I'd like to know what measures will be taken to assure that whatever dust, debris, what have you, results from that demolition will not impact the neighboring properties. So,
Okay. Let's go through those one at a time. So I guess can we have the applicant back and we'll answer those questions? So you could just step aside or, so I guess I could pull it out, but are there variances required on this?
So the variances are required for the rear yard. The family room, which we're proposing,
Noel, can I be, I'm not entirely clear about this. This application is before us because of the more than 30% change in the front, but it's my understanding that that gives us, to the extent that there is work being done on the house, we can comment on all of it.
That's correct. It's
Okay.
proceeding under two separate building permits for the front and for the rear, which is why it went directly to the zoning board for the rear yard variances. But you're approving the whole site plan, so you can
Yeah.
consider the whole site plan.
Yes, thank you.
so the rear of the property had this existing kind of lean-to and opening into the basement, which we found out after doing some research was not legal. We're proposing to put a family room, 1 story, on the back, and we are 7 feet as of right for this family room, and essentially we asked the zoning board for a 5-foot variance. So instead of being 25 feet from the rear setback as required in the zone, we're proposing 20. Now, on the other side here where the kitchen is, we proposed a deck, a ground level deck, that we were allowed to encroach into the rear yard setback 6 feet. However, we requested a 2-foot variance, so we could have an 8-foot deck to be able to put a table. And it didn't make sense to make such a small deck. We wanted a deck, but it just, at that point, since we were looking for the variance for this family room, the 5 feet, we also requested the additional 2 feet for that deck. In terms of a patio, it's really not a patio. There's some walkway that's over there that's underneath that area that I guess he must have had some table and chairs at one point. And that's really it. I don't see it as a big encumbrance. And we also provided some depictions of the elevation. See, so like, I believe this gentleman's home is here. And this is kind of from the house looking up, and you can see like they have a raised deck here in the back, which is above this 6-foot high fence. So they're probably up about 8 feet. Really not even going to see this family room.
And you said the deck, the proposed deck is a ground level
It's
deck?
on the ground, yeah.
And that encroaches a little further? And you,
2
yeah,
feet beyond the as of right.
okay.
So,
And all of these variances have been already presented to, or have they been approved by the zoning board, or just presented to?
They've been presented to, and I believe I'm assuming there'll be a resolution next month.
Yes,
That's
they
the
usually
next
sit on it for a
It's
month.
scheduled for resolution at the June
so
meeting.
let's
yeah.
address the gentleman's comments before we go any further. So what you asked is, if you go back to the site plan, or whatever we're looking at, showing the back of the house and the little
Oh, the back of the
thing.
house, yep.
Right, so there's two setbacks, as he described. One of them is where the existing porch thingy is that you showed us. You said it's existing.
Yes, it's existing, but it
Right.
wasn't done legally.
No, I understand, but what's that dimension and what will it be when you put the new addition on?
So this was the 7 feet.
And it's going to be,
It's going to be 12 feet.
so it's 5 more feet towards your property, right, on that part of the building,
And 1 story.
and it's 1 story.
Yeah, so the, where you're saying the family room will be, I think, and that's the 5 feet beyond where the patio is now, that I know, it's kind of a ramshackle patio, I know. So that's like 5 additional,
20 feet from the rear,
Okay.
of the property now. That's what we're proposing, as opposed to 25.
okay, and it's a single, that's going to be a 1 floor,
One
one-floor family room. And then the other side, which is further from my house, and therefore I'm not quite so, I'm less concerned about it, is going to, that's where the kitchen area will be. And I know there's some structure there already that's kind of protrudes from the back, the rest of the structure.
There's this
Right,
piece here,
that's
the
right.
bathroom.
That's right,
Mhm,
right.
That's going to stay.
Okay,
And where the family room comes out, there'll be a door there to go out onto this deck,
Mhm.
which then they're going to be here closer to the kitchen.
okay,
And that deck is 2 feet beyond the as-of-right dimension. So it
Right.
could be an 8-foot deck.
right. And that's, frankly, it's not my concern, because that's at the other, the other end of the house from where I am. Just so you're clear, the house with the fence is not my house.
Excuse me?
Yep.
Can you now address us?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so it's clear, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, it was important that you explain it because it's a
yeah.
concern, so I think that's perfectly acceptable, but I think this is a
Just so
general question.
I'm not the house with the fence.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
I'm
the
the
next
house
thing.
next to that, and we don't have a fence. We basically, our property is basically divided from the folks at 62. That's, yes, that's us, and that's our deck, and that's, yeah. So you can see, we have landscaping between us and the folks at 62 Hickory Hill. And I guess there's a chain link fence along the side of 64. So it's really just a matter of visual.
Right, that's-
Yep.
And, if,
That's
I
so,
guess I'm satisfied that the 5-foot single level family room, is okay with
so
me.
we just wanted to answer your question, which I think we have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
It's
and I
going-
do have a question about the construction, but maybe this is something.
Well, we'll get to that. So it's going back to zoning, so if you want to talk to the zoning guys, I guess you have a chance to attend.
No, the
or-
public hearing is closed. It's just for resolution.
Right, yeah,
Understand,
no, I was,
And then as
as I
far-
said, I was unfortunately out last week, so.
And then as far as construction, when you guys do demo, there's all sorts of notes you put on the drawings to mitigate dust and, right?
Yes, that's correct. And my client is also in the construction business, so they're very well versed in terms of mitigating dust and et cetera.
Is there a sheet that covers construction on your?
There's general notes on the first page that talks about everything from housekeeping and stacking of soil and where we project to put it, and that's in the front yard, not in the backyard, so.
So we're going to assume that they're responsible contractors, and if you find that they're not responsible, I'm sure you could call the planning board or the planning
Yeah,
department.
call the
Building
building department.
department,
And they live in town as well, so it's
Right,
not as
everyone-
though, this is not the first rodeo for them.
Yep. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments from the public? Good. So I make a motion to close the public hearing on that.
Sorry to interrupt. We have to keep this open because this has not been to the Architectural Review Board yet, so it just
Oh.
needs a referral there, and you should keep the hearing open to receive its comments.
Oh, okay. It will. Can I close the public hearing first, or? Yeah, okay, so, well, let's close, oh, we leave it open, is what
Yeah.
you said, right. So I make a motion to refer application 24-17, 64 Hickory Hill, to the Architectural Review Board. And as I should have said, the hearing does remain open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So next application is 2401 42 Maple Avenue.
Good evening, members of the planning board. Elliot Senor, engineer, surveyor for the applicant. How you doing?
Good evening.
So this was a project that we started, I guess, a couple months ago. It is a property that was in separate ownerships that through a series of events, it was the heirs of the property took over, and then it was combined into a single lot, and we're trying to separate it back out into the two lots. Part of it is that they're in separate zones, and we need some variances for the existing house setbacks and alike. So I think we're here tonight for some secret items, and then hopefully a referral to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I can go through it in more detail if you like.
You've showed us this previously, right? This is an open public hearing. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, you showed us this previously.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember this was the one that, by operation of law, I think it was, because
Yes.
the ownership, it was under common ownership, the properties basically became one, it was two
It was, right,
subdivided
it was in
properties.
two separate ownerships. The owners have passed away. Their siblings, inherited the property, and then because it was one set of heirs, it combined.
Yeah, and now we're trying to put it back to how it was
Back the way it
before.
was.
Yeah.
Right, so we've heard it. So I'm going to put on the record that there is a memorandum from KSI Consulting, our town's consulting civil engineer, dated May 20th, 2024, that there are some comments in there that he believes have not been addressed.
Well, right, so I just got a comment sheet just yesterday, dated May 20th. And it is several pages of comments. When we started this project, we don't really have any intention of building the property. They want to separate it so they can sell it off. So some of these comments provide building elevations and things like that. Well, we don't have any building elevations because we're not really proposing to build them. So I didn't see this until, just recently. So I think it's kind of, I understand if it's the code requirements, but we really aren't building a house, and to go through and prepare all those plans to sell a lot, which has to come back here at the time of that site plan, is kind of redundant.
So you're saying that any compliance you would make with this would be purely hypothetical? And,
Yeah.
And so.
And we do show, we did show a site plan. We did soil testing that they witnessed that provides that we do have proper drainage for the property in the most part. There were some comments about that need some tweaking. But the vacant lot really will support a house. We sort of demonstrated that it can be compliant. It's the existing house that we need the variances on, not the proposed lot.
Can we subdivide a lot without doing a whole review of everything?
So this has been designated for a coordinated review under SECRA, so therefore you have to make a determination of significance before any board can take action. So before you refer to the zoning board, you need to make a determination under SECRA. I think we could probably have a discussion with the town civil engineer about some of those site planning issues and defer them to conditions. I think his main concerns were with comments 11 and 12 about the stormwater management on, in the front of one of the lots.
Yeah, so, I mean, as far as that is concerned, currently, when we did a test pit in front of the lot, we hit rock at 3 feet. It was very shallow. I did show some drainage there. I think that because the driveway is out at the street level, we can't really go down and put any drainage there because there's no depth. I did show a dry well there connected to the driveway because personally, I feel that any sort of drainage is better than no drainage at all. And so we can remove that. There's no way that we can have the proper separation. So that driveway is going to run out into the street because there's no other alternative that would meet their requirement.
So we're not the civil engineers, so although, we're not the civil engineers, we're the planning board, so although I'd like to agree with you, I don't have the qualifications to, so I think this has to go past KS, our consultant. Can that can't be resolved, that has to be resolved and then come back to us? It's not something,
I think so, because stormwater is one of the
Yeah, it's
fundamental
the main
things
thing.
that you'll have to consider under
And,
secra.
I mean, once we do get the variances, we certainly have to come back here for the rest of the subdivision, and we can certainly discuss with the consultant about how we can solve all these problems. Again, we still don't really have a proposed building to show elevations on, but
yeah, I
we
understand.
can certainly go through the items at the time we come back. Because the variances are on the existing house lot, they're
Right,
not
but
on
the issue is we can't move you to the zoning board until we're satisfied that all of the issues having to do with the coordinated review have been addressed. and they
Right, because,
haven't.
secra was coordinated, so this board has to make a secret determination first, since we didn't do an uncoordinated review where each board makes its own. So,
So I'd like to say yes, but I can't, right? I think you have to, this has to be addressed with you and explain whatever you did to us, to our consultant. He gives a thumbs up, you come back in June, and I'm sorry, you explain it to our town consultant, you guys figure it out, he comes back, he gives a thumbs up, we refer you to the zoning board.
If that's the requirement, that's
It
the
is, yeah.
requirement. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
Yeah, and
sway you.
trust me, I'd like to help you,
Yeah,
but
and I know, and we have our little summer break coming up too, so, sorry, timing is what it is.
so.
You also hold any public hearings
Yeah,
until
it's
after
a-
that happens as well?
It's an open public hearing, and it's going to remain open.
Okay.
So if there's any comments from the public about this application, now's the time. If not, we'll just leave the public hearing open. So I'll make a motion, which is something, to continue the public hearing on application 2401, 42 Maple Avenue, subdivision to the planning board's June 27, 2024 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. And yours. Next application is 23-27, 360 White Plains Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Steve Accinelli from Veneruso, Curto, Schwartz, and Curto. On behalf of the applicant, here with me this evening is Louis Campana, our architect, and also our traffic engineer, Stephen Mafia. So we have good news, and I want to start off by thanking Ms. Wolfson. She was nice enough to meet with us after the March Planning Board meeting. I know at that time the board had a number of significant concerns about the design and various components of the project. I'll leave the finer details to Mr. Campana, but I am happy to report that we've made some significant changes to the project that are responsive to, and I hopefully resolve many, if not most, of this board's concerns from the March meeting. To summarize quickly, we reduced the scale of the building. We brought the height down by about 2.5 feet. We reduced the footprint of the building by about 33%. We reduced the gross floor area of the building by about 39%. We reoriented the building so that it is now no longer facing Cypress Street. It's facing north towards the parking lot and Walgreens. In addition, we, as a result of the reduction in scale, The project now requires 89 parking spaces, and we are able to provide 89 parking spaces, so we are compliant. So what we've done is essentially we've eliminated the parking variance, we've eliminated the variance relative to the orientation of the front of the building facing Cypress Street, and the only remaining area variance is the pre-existing non-conforming condition, which is the parking within the 20 feet of the residential district. So with that, with the board's permission, I'd like to turn it over to the architect, and he can walk through the finer details. What we decided to do, so the board is aware, we wanted to present these changes to the board based upon our revisions and our meeting with staff. We did not advance the plans at this point because we wanted to review them with the board before we expended resources towards that effort. So we were prepared to do that, but first we wanted to present these changes to the board.
I think it's a good idea. It's great that you were responsive to our comments from the last meeting and that you took it to heart to come back with something that's a little more to what we discussed. So certainly, thank you for that. So let's take a look at what you have, and then we'll figure out the next steps. Thank you.
And just for the record, it's Cypress Road, not street.
Oh, Cypress Road, my apologies.
Yeah.
So good evening, board. Louis Campana, architect on behalf of the applicant. Steve, thank you for doing such a great job with that summary. So I will try to keep it brief. So the overall scale of the building was reduced, and in doing so, the parking requirement also came down as well. But in terms of the building, what we wanted to do was conform with the existing scale of the gable that's located to the left of the existing building here. You could see that, that's where the ATM is located. We wanted to recreate that. The scale of what we've done is slightly larger, but it does reflect it, and it seems to be in more of a residential scale that we've come up with here. In terms of the location and the orientation of the building, we felt that it was important to keep the building in the general vicinity as to where we had it previously in order to maintain the flow of on-site traffic as it exists today. Also, where that building is located, it's located in an area where the parking spots are seldom used, basically. We do understand that, if I go back to the site plan, the jiu-jitsu studio down in the basement of the existing building does, the people who attend, they do park back in this vicinity, and we've introduced that area of parking back to the project. We connected the building with the breezeway, with the covering, which is just visually supported by brick corbels on either side, located here and here. And on the side facing Cypress, we do have 3 windows. They're by no means storefront, and a door for the stair. The main entrance would be located on the north side, which is similar to what we had previously, but without a covered walkway. We removed the covered walkway to incorporate more parking, so we would fall into the conformance with the parking zoning law. These are the 2 side east and west elevations. This is the side up top here. I'll zoom in a little bit because the coloration is not good. This faces the back side of the existing building. Here is the breezeway, which is 14 foot 6 inches above the parking lot surface. And then this is the side of the building here, which will face the back of the residential lots, the 4 lots that are behind. So as you can see here, it does certainly take on more of a residential feel as opposed to just a single plane of white brick. One of the comments that we had received from the board at the last meeting was a circulation between the two buildings. And what we've done here is we've actually included that back into the application. And we moved the recycling garbage containers over just to the left of the existing building, to the north side. And just above that is, we're showing the existing loading space, 15 by 40 loading space.
Can you point that out again? Can you point out where the containers are again? I
Sure.
didn't see it.
Located just here, right next to the loading zone, the loading
Okay.
dock.
Thank you.
Currently, they're located in the parking area right here. So, just to summarize that briefly, the on-site vehicular circulation will remain the same as it is today. Driving force for the location of the building on site. And we were able to reduce the 3 area variances to 1, which is an existing legal nonconforming condition.
And the one area variance that you would need is a pre-existing.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Just to clarify on I don't even know the precise language of the variance, but the variance that prohibits you from putting on a road of this nature, a road that connects into a residential area, storefronts facing the street, by flipping it to the other side, by reorienting, I guess is the nicer way of describing it.
Right.
That no longer, that is now, that would be in compliance with the zoning law that prohibits that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But just for the record, we're the planning board, so we like that it's a more appealing site from Cypress that just happens to meet the zoning requirement also. At least that's the way I look at it. So a couple of questions.
Mhm.
So this was always the circulation of traffic, right? Everyone
Yeah, so
goes out.
I could review that.
We're not changing it.
Here. So Cypress Road, right? Road, street. There is two-way ingress and egress from the parking lot.
Correct.
On the egress side, or the exiting side, we will be locating a stop sign, which currently does not exist. As you enter, as currently exists today, you can only enter and go around the east side of the parking lot and then exit either going straight down to White Plains Road or making this left alongside the back of the existing building. Here's towards the south side parking area. Today, you can only go east on that and then either wrap all the way around the site or exit onto Cypress. At White Plains Road, the curb cut to the south is ingress only to access the site, and over to the north, it's egress only, which we're maintaining.
Right. Okay. Oh, could you go back to all the elevations again? In particular, yeah, that one. So the one on top is a blow up of the one on the bottom, right?
Yes.
With a little texture added to it for the, okay, and the one on the bottom is, so do you have any idea what the finishes would be if you were to do this? Just in concept.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry, do you have any idea what the finishes would be on your addition, just in concept? Would it be brick, white brick, would it be?
Oh, the brick itself?
Yep.
In terms of the material, yes, it would be matching the existing building. So white brick, a light gray, aluminum cap on the gable parapet, and then slate roof, just like the existing building.
Okay, so that's what you'd see on the Cypress side? It
Correct.
would match the existing Chase Bank?
Yeah, I like to sort of see this as almost a bookend to the existing.
To the existing,
building.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the little breezeway in between too. It sort of connects them, so it looks like one building. I think
And
that-
there's an emergency exit from the Chase Bank right below that breezeway as well. So it sort of connects the two sidewalks in front of the building.
There are going to be sidewalks on either side of that breezeway?
Say again?
There will be sidewalks on either side of that breezeway, or
Sidewalks?
sidewalks, yes?
There's one right in front of the new building, right in front of the parking spaces.
Yep.
To access this door to the stair. And then there's, I'll go to the site plan, it's probably easier to see. There's an existing
Oh, there's an
sidewalk
existing.
around an areaway, which goes to the basement here. Is an
I
existing
see.
sidewalk that wraps around this way and brings you over to this side of the north side of the existing building.
Okay.
I think it was represented that the size of the office space is approximately, what, was it 39% reduction in size from what was proposed back in March?
So the gross floor area was a 39% reduction. Yeah.
Okay. And is the thought still that there would be some sort of, I guess, commercial, is this just, yeah,
Based
Go
on the size, it's office.
offices?
Offices, yes. And because of no frontage on a main street,
Yeah.
there's really no marketing or, advertisement there anyway.
Yeah,
so it's
that's-
not really an attractive place for a retail shop.
Okay, so this would be proposed to be office space, not retail space?
Correct.
Okay. That makes
So
sense.
as far as the loading space where the trash receptacles are over there,
Mhm.
it's adjacent to parking. And how would it get unloaded and everything with parking nearby?
So currently, the loading zone is located in front of the loading dock. Where this is drawn here, it does leave a bit of space. During the last rendition, the back of these parking spaces came all the way down to the corner of the building. So I did leave space, although it's not 18 feet. This loading zone could slide between the buildings, allowing these cars to back up and safely use the exit down to White Plains Road. So, I guess a better way to say that, there could be a sign situated on the wall of the building saying "loading zone beyond this point."
So,
So they would have to pull
People.
in so that people would have the ability to back out of
so
those
the
spots.
concern is that they're loading while people are also trying to get into spaces and get out of their spaces? Is that,
Yeah, right now we have 30 feet from the face of the building, the loading dock, to the back of these parking spaces. 18 feet is required for the backup space for angled parking spots of, I believe this is 70 degrees. Yeah, 70 degrees. So the 15-foot space does take, room out of that 30 feet. But my point being is that this loading zone could be slid over between the two buildings here so that the people parking in spots 85 through 89, I don't know if you can see that, have the ability to back up into this aisle and then out to 22.
so that would allow the people in those spaces to be able to navigate if there's some
Yes.
sort of pickups being
If it
done?
was an
or-
emergency to get out, yes.
So you're offering that without us really requesting it?
Well, currently, I mean, where the building is situated now, there's an additional number of spots, and so anywhere where this loading dock is located along the backside of this building, it's blocking parking spots. So by sliding that loading zone between the buildings, we're no longer doing that.
Seems reasonable.
We are preventing access through that way if the truck is stopped there, but there is a way out.
Right. I see where it is now, if a truck comes in and stops
If
in
it
the
stops
loading
there,
zone,
right.
cars can get around it, but the cars in the spaces might have to have a little trouble. If you move it over, the
If we
cars
move
have
it
to.
over, then it's clearly blocked, and they have to back up and then out.
Yeah. Would the two receptacles, they'd actually be in the back of the building? Could you just circle where they'd go?
The loading zone?
Yeah, the loading zone would move over, but the receptacles they pick up, where would they end up?
I can't hear you.
Where would they, I see where the loading zone is, right? But the truck that comes in,
Ah, okay.
yeah, where would it stop?
See if I could do that neatly. So, I think I'm answering your question. This would end up being the loading spot.
Right,
So it doesn't block any parking spaces. It just blocks access through this one of two ways of getting out of the site.
okay. I-
Hope that answered.
You guys have any preference on where we put that?
No, I think, well, right now, and I recognize that stores can change, but right now, I don't think the Brinks truck is backing up with all kinds of money to put in the bank.
They usually pull up right to the side, right next to the ATM machine.
Yep.
And then Sherwin-Williams, the paint store, is the only one who's using this loading dock.
And
So it's-
I'm imagining they get deliveries maybe once a week, twice a week, probably.
Maybe, yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
maybe a few deliveries, but those aren't, semis,
Yeah,
semi trucks. Those
That's
are
right.
Probably
And
box
the
trucks.
Jiu-jitsu place is probably not getting very much either.
Right.
In terms of deliveries, it's
Right.
people coming in. And granted, these things can change, but I'm not, this isn't a supermarket.
Correct. Yes,
where-
that would be
yeah.
problematic.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess if we move it, people would see that it's there and just go another way, back out and go out an accessible
Yeah.
route.
Yeah, what we'll do is when we return for the next meeting, I'll clearly show that with markings where that is, and then the signage that we'll put to direct any deliveries to pull between the buildings as opposed to right in front of that door.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Okay, cool. Oh, gosh. So, are there any other issues? I mean, I kind of like what you've done with the building. It's something that I think I could stand behind right now. More so than the other one, because you appropriately brought the scale down to something that's much more pleasant to the surroundings. For a minute, I was thinking, there's no activity. When you had that bright storefront, it's like there's movement, but that's exactly what you don't want. This is just a blank wall that sort of cuts it off.
Yeah.
So I think in my opinion, it serves the purpose. The one thing that we don't have is we did ask to get some parking surveys, and I don't think you've done that. I know you're compliant, but there have been some questions about how the parking is and what the parking looks like during times at which there's a high volume. So,
Yeah, I believe it was, what was asked was a study over a consecutive period of days to just monitor that.
at a certain time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hate to do all this great work and then find out that there's a parking situation that we could address
Certainly,
as part of this application.
certainly.
But my
Hopefully-
guess is that your main concern here was to see if this passes muster with what was a fairly critical board
Of
the last
course.
time. And I think we
course.
can address that.
Yeah.
And certainly we'll want to hear, I think, will we have a public hearing? Is there one scheduled?
The public hearing is open on
Still
this
open.
application?
Still
Yeah.
open, so
Hearing's
we'll,
open.
we'll,
Yeah.
we'll hear there, but I think we can, I
Definitely.
think you probably will be able to get through the parking stuff, but like the
And our
chairman said.
intention, just so you
Yeah.
know, is at the next meeting is to have the full package, the site plan package, the parking studies, traffic studies, and the landscape plan as well.
Right, and if the
Yeah.
parking studies are favorable, you're good to go. If they're not,
Right.
we'll
of
figure out what
course.
to do then.
Yep.
course.
And you'd still need the variance, but
Yeah, it's de minimis.
to me, when you have a pre-existing, you're not, it's going to still be a problem if you do nothing.
Correct.
So it's, anyhow.
Okay. So, looks like you've done good. Thank you, Mr. Campana. We're going to continue. So, this is a public hearing that was open on March 21st. If there's any comments from the public, please come forward.
Any comments from the public?
Seeing that there's no comments, I make a motion to continue the public hearing on this application, 23-27, 360 White Plains Road, to the Planning Board, June 27, 2024 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Enjoy the holiday.
All right.
Yes,
too.
you too.
You look just like a guy who used to be on this board.
That's why I lost my hair.
I'll drive you crazy. So the next application is 23-02, 203 Beach Street, and 104-108 Highland Avenue subdivision.
Yeah, what is it? Here it says,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and council. Brad Schwartz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. I don't believe I've appeared before your board, so good to meet you all. I'm joined by the development team this evening, Bastian Kukai, Brian Dempsey, the traffic engineer, and Dan Collins from Hudson Engineering, the professional engineer. Dave Smith, the project planner, couldn't make it tonight. He had a conflict. So I'm new to the team. I wasn't before your board when the project was last here in June of 2023, when your board adopted a negative declaration under SECRA, determining that a prior 8-lot layout for this property would not result in any adverse impacts. The applicant then since went to the zoning board, and at the zoning board there was quite a bit of feedback, public feedback, as well as from the board with respect to traffic impacts along Beach. And as a result of those comments, the board asked my client to consider an alternative layout that resulted in traffic primarily coming in off of Highland Avenue. So my client took that feedback to heart and was able to make that happen by acquiring the site next door at 108 Highland Avenue. So we're here tonight to present a modified, amended layout that now proposes 11 lots, critically, again, access primarily derived off of Highland Avenue. There are 2 homes that would derive access off Beach, which with direct driveway connections, but again, most of the access is now off Highland. As a result of acquiring the additional property, another benefit, no variances required. So this is a zoning compliant as of right plan. We don't need to go to the zoning board. We don't need to go back to the town board for any parking restrictions on Beach, which was a prior condition to your board's neg deck. So zoning compliant, access off Highland. We believe we've responded to all the feedback given by the ZBA and the public, and we're excited to present that alternative layout tonight and get your feedback as well as the public's. You should know we noticed this as a public hearing tonight. Given the public interest at the ZBA, we thought it was only fair and reasonable to make sure the public knew we were here tonight, and we're excited to present this plan to the community.
yeah, and I can tell you, I don't know at what stage you became involved, and you mentioned significant public input before the zoning board. We had very significant public input over a course of several meetings at this board, even before we adopted the negative deck, and most of it, a good portion of it, was over traffic. And I do recall some discussion at this board level as well, if only this could be not a Beach Street, but more of a Highland issue, we think it would probably work a lot better that way. So these are all issues, and I think maybe only 2 of the members of the board. We had significant turnover on this board, so it's only the chairman, I think, and myself
Half of us are new to this.
Yes,
Me too.
There you go. More than
so,
half.
And I appreciate that background. In all candor, while I focus closely on the ZBA transcripts, I
oh no, I recognize a number of members of the public, you know, who gave some invaluable input, and
Our constituents had concern about, our constituents, the people had concern about what's happening on their street, rightly so. So they kept coming back until we somehow
Correct.
convinced
But I will
ourselves, right?
yeah, I will say most of because the direct impact was going to be on Beach, it was the residents in the Beach Street area that really were very animated and very invested. Passionate, we'll take passionate as well, about this development. And so I'm certainly interested in seeing, you know, if there would be any similar reaction from, you know, people perhaps in the Highland area who weren't as affected by it, who would be more affected, but recognizing that it's a completely different layout on Highland than there is on Beach. So, so yeah, we do appreciate, you know, we recognized even as we adopted the neg deck that, you know, there were concerns that the zoning board was going to have to deal with.
You're right, even your neg deck had those conditions about parking restrictions on Beach, so even your decision
Yes.
reflected the community's input on those concerns. And we're certainly equally interested to hear the community's feedback, and recognize that there may be different constituents along Highland. So, with your board's okay, I would ask Dan to walk you through the drawings.
Sure, let's do it.
Please.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Dan Collins, Hudson Engineering. All right, let me just get situated. So just to give a quick refresher, obviously the last time that we were here before you, this was the 8-lot plan. We were able to put a 300-foot cul-de-sac that gave us 6 lots off of Beach, and then the 2 off of Highland. Obviously, there was a lot of concerns with the parking that we were removing because of the Beach Street, the additional traffic that we were adding because of the additional residences. I know there was, the school is behind this area, this neighborhood, so there was additional concern of people parking and maneuverability because this road is a slightly more narrow roadway right now, and parking is currently allowed on both sides.
Can you explain what you have there for people that aren't familiar with it? Because it's kind of confusing. You've got the cul-de-sac of the first subdivision, right?
Yeah, again, just a reminder, we have 2 new board
Okay.
members here, and
also
another
to
new
the
board member
public.
who's not here.
Kind of
And
confusing.
so I
think know
recall
what it
this.
is.
Yeah, I recall,
Yeah.
that's off
All
of,
right, so this
that's
is,
Beach.
Even,
Show
yeah,
us where Beach and Highland are.
geographically,
so this is the original subdivision. This is what we originally submitted. Essentially, we had an 8-lot subdivision. We were able to provide access off of Beach. We did actually look at coming off of Highland multiple
Highland,
times.
right.
Got it.
Because of the existing site constraints, we couldn't. So this was the best option. Our client obtained the 203 Beach property, which actually allowed us provide a 50-foot wide lot to meet the R5 district for Lot 1, and we were actually able to put a 50-foot right-of-way and cul-de-sac off of Beach Street. The initial concerns from the neighbors, obviously, what were said previously, were parking concerns. This whole area right now is street parking, and the existing road right now is 22 feet or so, 23 feet wide. So when you have one car parked on one side of the street, it essentially becomes a one-way road where you're really kind of squeezing cars in between. A few of the neighbors, I know they're here now, that actually bought this up, and they've had their own traffic investigations of the entire property. This works. I think the only 2 things that we required were the variance for, we couldn't provide a radius here for the right-of-way because we don't own this property, and we were closer than 150 feet to Simon River Boulevard. So this did need 2 variances to get approved.
Correct. And just to note that in the lower right-hand corner of this site plan, there was a lot that was going to be undeveloped, right?
Yes, so we had 8 lots. We did have a 1 non-building lot. What was going to be on that lot, we had stormwater practice. Basically, the runoff that was flowing over land from the uphill, then the cul-de-sac itself, that was going to go to a stormwater system on this lot. From here, that would control and treat the water before it would get conveyed through the property down to the existing stormwater system, Highland Avenue. Those stormwater improvements actually benefited Beach. It took everything away from that side. But in the revised design, you're about to see, it's very similar, obviously, but now we're coming into the other side. So if there's any more questions about this, I can answer them.
What's existing right now?
Existing, did I have that? Where are you?
Is it just,
There's a picture. It's empty.
Yeah.
That's what's there. Yeah.
Big field.
All right,
okay, so
Big lot.
okay.
I have everything. Existing conditions, right now, this was the original lot with 104 and the larger area to the back, and then 203 Beach is off this way. It's basically slopes. There's a little bit of a ridge line here which separates it from Beach Street, and everything else slopes kind of gently across the way till it eventually gets to Highland further down the hill. So right now on the existing 104 lot, there is a concrete building, a concrete garage with driveway access already. There was, I believe, a two-family residence on here to begin with. That got demolished. This is the 108 property that our client just obtained. I do have updated survey. This has not been updated to reflect that since, but it will be obviously included on the next. But this is a three-family residence that's on here, a multifamily, three-family residence on this, with driveway access to the back. Basically, the house is about right here. This is just half of it. There's a back patio in the backyard, driveway access, and parking in the rear with some landscaping.
So that one right there is not included in this?
That's not included in the original. That was not included in the original.
Okay.
In the modified,
Okay,
it is
all right, so I'll
included
wait
now.
for that. Okay.
All right.
Got it, now I got it.
But otherwise, to answer your question, it's mostly just grass, right?
Yeah, it's all lawn. It's just,
Yeah.
I
lawn
was
and
just
trees.
looking and seeing some existing, so I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure
Yeah.
what was what.
Right now, it's lawn and tree, maintained, it's not overgrown. They've done a good job of keeping it up with it.
Okay.
All right, so now we jump. So now we're proposing 11 lot subdivision. So obviously, as you can see, since we've obtained the 108 property, this actually now allows us to provide a 50-foot wide lot along the western side, 50-foot right-of-way, and then we meet the required width and depth to provide a 6,000 square foot lots, because we have the R6 and R5 zoning that cuts across. Lots 1 and lots 2 meet the R6 zoning, and any portion that goes beyond that R5, R6 line, so basically anything to the east of that, we've made it so that all the setbacks meet the R6, and anything to the west of that line, all the setbacks meet the R5. So these are all fully compliant lots. We have a 300-foot roadway, which meets the definition of the multiplication of the roadway, the lot widths, all the way up. So that's the max we can go. This allows us to provide 7 lots on the east side and the south, and then 2 additional lots on the western side. And then where we were coming in before with the roadway, now we're just putting 2 new houses and 2 driveway curb cuts separate from Beach Street. What this also does is make sure that there's the existing school district line that actually follows right along this property boundary here between 203 and 104. Those 2 lots will be in the Tuckahoe School District, and all this entire development will now be in the Eastchester School District in its entirety.
Yep, if you could take the mic, yep.
Dan highlighted that because previously there was concern by the neighbors that the prior layout would have been located in both school districts. And so homes off the beach would have had 2 separate buses running down beach, so now that eliminates that. And Dan, why don't you also point out the stormwater lot?
Yes. So yeah, exactly what Brad said was basically now this is separate. It's going to the Tuckahoe School District. You don't have all the buses. Now there's a separate school bus stop for these guys and a separate school bus for this neighborhood.
For all intents
So
and
it's
purposes, this is there's a Highland cul-de-sac, and there's 2 homes on Beach that,
Exactly. And there
while
was-
they're part of the development,
a clean
really
break.
are not integrated into the other 9.
Yes, and there was already, obviously, there was a house here on the 203 lot. Essentially, that was going to get put right back, and then we're going to put 1 additional house onto it, and that'll be all that's really affecting the Beach Street side. And then we do have the non-building lot at the corner, which provides for the stormwater, which I'll get into shortly.
And that's given the slope of the natural slope of the property.
Yes, so basically
that's probably a
everything's-
better location for it than where it was
Exactly.
before.
So now everything slopes this way. We were coming in this way. We had to kind of use this high point because then everything sloped down this way. We couldn't really put the system where these lots were previously. So now, since everything just comes up and goes up with the slope into the property, now basically we're able to catch everything. It's kind of makes more sense than what we had previously designed to. Because before we were kind of forcing it into the higher corner, but now it's in the natural low side of the property.
So all in, you're proposing 11 homes
11
here.
lots.
But you're also, I know there have been homes that have either been demolished or will be demolished. So what is the net increase in the number of residences here?
So there's a 3-family here. I'm assuming they're 2-bedroom each. And then there was a 2-family here that I would assume are both 2-bedroom each. So I mean, it's essentially 5 residences that were here before that are coming out, and then 9 are coming in on this side.
Okay, and then
So the net
two,
would be-
two for one on the Beach Street side?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So the net would be 4+ on this side, and then 1 additional on that side from what was there previously.
Okay.
And the other benefit about this layout, and I believe, do I have the truck
So
turn?
what's the
Yes.
net increase, 5?
Well, if you're
One
counting
plus-
3-family and 2-family,
That's 5.
that's, and now you have 9 replacing 5, so that's a +4. And then on Beach, you have
1.
2 replacing what was 1 that was demolished. So that's a +1. So +5 altogether.
It's plus 5.
And we did run the truck turn analysis with the fire truck. Obviously, this will be circulated with the fire department, obviously, as the project moves forward. This is the biggest ladder they have. It could get in from Beach Street. It certainly can get in from Highland. It's a much wider roadway with a double yellow line down the middle. There's no street parking, from what I understand, on Highland right now, but we'd be adding 8 spaces on our property. So those would be public spaces for anybody to use for any occasion that they need to use them. So this would be able to provide those 8 spaces and get the emergency vehicles in and out of the property, safely. So everything can be safely accessed, even if there are cars parked there all the way up the street. So that's an added benefit to these homes on Highland, which don't really have that additional parking right
I
now.
recall with the prior plan that I believe you had at least 4 driveway spaces for each of the proposed 8 homes, I guess it was?
Yes, and these would have the same.
They have the same, it looks like the same proportion,
These
yeah.
would all have the same. You'd have 2 parking spaces in the garages and 2 parking spaces in each. So you'd end up with 4 all the way around for the 9, and then obviously you'd have 4 on that side as well which would help out on here, because then you wouldn't have these extra people parking on the street where there's already limited spaces to begin with. So I guess I'll move on to.
I just had a quick question. Is there any, traffic management device contemplated for the entrance on Highland? Stop sign, light?
Yeah, we are
flash?
proposing a stop sign out. So it'll be free, like left, right, light turn in, left turn in, just like the other 2 cul-de-sacs up the road. Then there will be obviously a stop sign and a stop bar coming out. There will be also signage showing a dead end signage at the end here. And we would be, similar to what we had previously, we would be providing no parking signs. So you'd only be able to park on the one side to maintain this emergency access through. And there would be no parking on the cul-de-sac, just to make sure that that cul-de-sac, that emergency fire truck can get through and access each of the homes as well. So this is the only place you'd be allowed to park on this cul-de-sac.
Same ground rules as the other application?
Yes, exactly, except we were able to get more. Okay, so I'll move on to stormwater, which I guess is over here. Stormwater and utilities. So right now, the roadway is graded per town code. I believe I have it at, it's not 10%, it's less than the required 10%. It comes up 3%, up 10%, and then we come out at 5%, meeting the town's requirement for grading. We meet the horizontal curves, and Joe Tremelli had commented on and reviewed that as well. As I was saying previously, this whole thing basically grades up into the hill now. So now we're starting at Highland, we're going up from about 196, 197 on this side, and we end up at 213, 214, where the existing grade is about 216 along the center line alignment. So we're pretty much meeting close to where the existing grade is on this side. And as I said previously, because of that, the runoff that comes across the site, now, since it's all coming across the site this way, this is the lowest portion. So basically the runoff from the proposed roadway, proposed lots 9 and 8 and 9, as well as lot 7, because we couldn't get depth to ground, we had high groundwater here. Those will actually run off overland, get captured via the catch basins that we're proposing within the roadway, and then that'll be conveyed to a similar gallery, what we call it attenuation gallery, located in the bottom, which would be similar to what we were proposing before. So what that does, we will have what we call an outlet control structure, which basically slows those flows down to be less than what exits the site now. So we look at the existing conditions, we analyze the flows coming off the property, we get that number with rates on cubic feet per second. Once we see those rates, we basically size this so that whatever comes down to this point and runs off into these catch basins down is less than what was going there previously. Since this is disturbing more than 1 acre, we're required to treat water quality volume and then treat all the storm events, 1, 10, 25, and 100-year storm event per the New York State requirements. And that's also, I believe we included the 50-year storm per the town of Eastchester's requirements as well. So this is basically going to be sized per meet the state and the town's requirements as per the Speedies permit. Each individual lot, same thing, where we could get good perk rates and good deeps, basically if the soil can absorb the water, and then we had a depth to groundwater or ledge rock, we were able to actually put in a individual dry well system to exfiltrate or infiltrate that water back into the grounds. We're anticipating that these would be sized for the 100-year storm. If not, obviously we'll work it around. We're in the process of providing and revising our SWIP. We couldn't get it for this one, but we're going to get it for the next round. That'll all be included in the next submission to proof out our calculations that we have shown on here. Because I know this got a little confusing. The color one was a lot easier to look at. Utilities, sewer main, same thing as before. We have now, it's a 316 linear foot sewer main going from the existing sewer main down in Highland up to a manhole here. That'll service this side. The water main would connect to the existing, I believe it's a 10-inch main based on my conversations with Veolia. That'll be extended up to the end of the cul-de-sac with a hydrant. That'll serve water and sewer for these 9 lots. Each of these lots would basically just tap off the existing main and sewer main and water main off of Beach Street. So basically, that sums everything up with this subdivision. I honestly think that this layout does meet the concerns of all the neighbors. We did obviously take all that into consideration when we did do this design. This is a much better street to come out to, has more space, there's more maneuverability, leaves them alone, and they can stay where they are. They only get 1 extra house on there, and that's it. So.
And that's a fairly straight section of Highland Avenue there? I know it bends at certain points.
And we did do site distance, so we had the site distance. This is about where we had the driveway from the previous house, so the site distance still works fine in both directions, and I have that included in my plans that were submitted.
Got it. So, okay. Thank you.
The only thing I'll add is that Brian Dempsey is here from DTS Provident. He did provide a traffic survey to your board. We did a fairly comprehensive submission, even for the sketch plan review. Phil really had reviewed it, pretty much signed off on it with some routine comments that we'll address. So we don't feel the need for Mr. Dempsey to give a full presentation. If you'd like to hear from him, happy to. But if you'd like to turn it over to the public, I defer to the board.
Thank you. Do we want to wait for the next public hearing, and Mr. Greeley could be here, or Dr. Greeley could be here to address directly?
Sure, I think that makes sense.
You don't have to say it twice. Do you mind? We'd love to hear it, but we're going to ask you to hear it again when you come back.
Well, can we get, since
executive summary?
Mr. Dempsey's here, maybe just.
Can you give us the executive summary?
Sure. Hit the highlights?
Just the highlights, yeah. Because I am interested, because previously, all we looked at was beach. And beach is, to me, beach is no longer the issue. It's really Highland in terms of traffic.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Dempsey from the firm DTS Provident Design Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer, as well as a certified professional traffic operations engineer and a roadway safety professional. As was stated by Brad, we did an updated traffic analysis at the request of the town's traffic consultant. He had us look at various factors, crash history, current traffic volumes, sight distance, and he went through, reviewed our findings. They all documented that there is no crash history of any significance at this intersection, where the driveway is or right in that area. There have been 5 accidents over the last 5 years. 3 of them were cars backing out into parked cars. 2 of them were on Beach. The other one was off of Highland. One was the car drove through the stop sign on Highland. So there's no traffic crash history of any significance here. As Dan mentioned, we looked at the sight distance. There's significant sight distance, and that was reviewed by the town's traffic consultant also. We did a traffic analysis. We didn't take credit for those 5 other residences. We looked at it straight as a blank slate. Since most of the lots are on Highland, the traffic will enter and exit on Highland. There would be the two lots on Beach, which will result in about 2 cars during the peak hour. So the issue with the buses was another thing we were asked to look at. The buses for the Eastchester School District will be on Highland. They evaluate where they're going to stop depending upon how many kids, where each one lives. They reevaluate it each year. So we had talked to them in the past about it. We did observe the existing bus. It stops at D'Ambrosio Way to pick up kids at that spot. So it'll just also stop at this location here if there's school children going to the particular school that we're using the bus. So those were the issues we were asked to take a look at, and I can answer any questions.
Yeah, just any glaring concerns
No,
raised by this?
no,
Yeah.
and as I said, the town's traffic consultant signed off. He agreed with our findings.
Okay.
Had no issues.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at the Greeley report, but I'm sure it's as you say.
Okay, that gives us a good idea. Is there just as an aside, we'll chat with you again when you come back and Dr. Greeley is here, but are there any crosswalks striped on Highland anywhere?
Not in this general area, no.
Just
Not-
kind of
not
curious.
Till you get to the top,
Right.
up by 22.
Is that something you consider? You don't want people crossing Highland because it's a heavily trafficked road?
Are there any sidewalks there? I don't
No
think.
sidewalks on either side of Highland.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the purview of your study for this, so it's more a town thing.
No.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay. Thank you. Great, thank you.
Great, thanks.
So this is a public hearing that's being carried over from the last application of the Beach Street side. So that public hearing was open on February 23rd, 2023, and as of now, it remains open. So now's the time to hear from the public if there's any comments.
Jay Rear, I live at 6 Barbara Place, Eastchester, New York. I'm here to speak about the development and how it impacts the environmental stormwater and what they're going to really do for it on stormwater management. Since the development of the D'Ambrosio Way, which was just north of this, or west of this on Highland Avenue. 6 Barbara Places and my neighbor, we've been putting up with a flood of water that comes down, rushing down between 6 and 8 Barbara Place, which is one house further into the circle. And today's rain is an example. But a year ago, I removed my underground oil tank, reseeded my property in the front, filled it with soil, brought up the soil level to where it was when the tank was there. And since that day, any rain, it comes down like torrents. I had to put down 1,600 pounds numerous times to replenish the soil from the runoff in attempting to seed the front lawn, because in the fall, every time it rained, the rains were excessive, and every year, you talk about the 100-year rains, we have it almost every couple of weeks, a 100-year rain. So we have to consider that, and what they're going to do on developing and covering up all the ground that's available to absorb the water now. What's it going to be like when it's filled with cement and homes? And you're talking about 2-car garages with 2 cars in front, a landing pad for them, covering up more and more soil. And it's up to you guys to consider what the neighbors below, and it's the great, we are about 50 feet below. Barbara Place is about 50 feet lower down on Highland Avenue, and there is an excessive amount. And you guys are dreaming when you think about the water is making its way to Highland Avenue and running down Highland Avenue. It doesn't run down Highland Avenue. It runs down on the soil where it is. It's pitched soil that goes right down to the lake, to the backup reservoir at the bottom of Highland. So, and you guys keep on signing off on developing properties and give zoning variances to cover up more land. And yes, we get more tax dollars, and the school systems are bursting at the seams, but you want to develop more, and the quality of life for the homeowner goes down. I don't want to have to worry about rain every time it comes, and to watch the soil go down Barbara Place to Highland Avenue. Barbara Place is sloped, right?
So we don't know the geography of Barbara Place, and we're not here to examine the geography,
Correct.
nor
But it's all
why it
sloping
happens.
down. And I've been at town board meetings where there are agreements made about not taking down trees, and 3 days later, the trees are taken down. So what enforcement is there?
Yeah, we're the planning board, right? So I'd like to be able to answer all your questions, because
So you have
I
to,
hear,
when you plan, you have to
but-
consider
but-
the water waste management,
Right,
water
that's-
management, not waste, but natural water flow.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Good?
I can.
Okay, good
Yep.
evening. Thank you for taking my comments. Rose Brescia, 205 Beach Street. I'm sure Highland Avenue residents have some concerns about the change in access to the cul-de-sac, but as a resident of Beach Street, I see this as a much improved design. Traffic-wise, I think it's going to work a lot better, and regarding the school attendance, because that was also an issue. I also think it's a better layout. The other one was kind of awkward, and this one seems to work out better. But I do have a concern about groundwater and drainage. This is also mentioned in the KSCJ consultant review menu. I have it as item number 17. And it says, while the average soil absorption rate and the groundwater levels across the property seem acceptable, the calculations for the individual lots show a great deal of variety. So I agree that each lot should be re-reviewed separately, because now we have different lots, and they do have different requirements and different soil absorption and different groundwater, so they should be looked at separately. I think anyone who's lived in town for more than 15 years or so will note there's been a tremendous shift in drainage patterns and runoff. It's kind of like a game of whack-a-mole. We dig a hole here, and water comes up there, right? And then you try to solve that problem, and then the water comes up somewhere else. And there's nowhere to go anymore. Water suddenly appears, places where it's never been. People who've never had to worry about water in the basement are now worrying about water in their basement. Dry wells just don't do the job anymore. They just don't. We've displaced too much water. And putting 11 houses is going to displace even more. I'd like there to be a consideration, and not an engineer, but I'm thinking this might help, that maybe all the houses, instead of just the 3, be attached to that attenuation gallery, so that, what I call the bathtub, right? So all that drainage water goes into that gallery instead of supposedly being absorbed on site, or as they like to say, dissipated into the surrounding soils. We know it doesn't dissipate. So I'm asking that that be considered, and then maybe that will help manage the water situation more effectively. That's all I have to say. I mean, we're early days on this project. Just one more thing, which is probably going to happen soon, and I can't find this anywhere in the building code or the zoning code. The demolition of the existing buildings, the ones that are on 108, I think it would be responsible of the owner to notify the neighbors when that demolition would occur. We've seen this happen all the time. The houses just come down. We're an old town. We have old houses. There's lead paint. There's asbestos. That just gets dissipated into the air. I think that that's something that the owner needs to notify the surrounding neighbors, that this is what's going to happen. On this day, you might want to close your windows. And I don't know if that's a planning board thing, but I can't find that anywhere in the building code. So I'm just throwing out there as an idea that's something that should be notified. But again, early days, I'm very concerned about water, as everyone in the town is. And I know, and I've said this at the last meeting, engineers love a problem like this, right? And they're also optimistic, and they have their charts and their formulas, and they say, oh, this is going to work, this is going to work, this is going to work. And then we have that 100-year storm that comes every 3 years now, right? And we have 2 inches of rain that falls in 15 minutes, and the systems can't do it. They just can't handle it. So I really like, and I don't know those charts and formulas and everything, when those are updated. Is that something that gets updated every year, every 5 years, every 10 years to accommodate? I'm not getting into a discussion on climate change, okay? But we know there's been a change, right? We have a different scenario going on. So I think that's something that really needs to be looked at very, very specifically. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Additional comments from the public? Got nothing to say? Okay, we'll take that as a good sign. Thank you. Anyone else? So this is, right, this stays open. Would you like to you wrap up, or are you looking to wrap up, or?
I'm just listening.
Okay, cool. So then, let's see, I had something to say before we go. And it has more to do, so we've talked to the public, this has more to do with the secret determination, so let me just read this into the record, because right now, we have to figure out if what we're gonna do with the existing secret determination, if we're gonna modify it, amend it, whatever, but let me just read this, and then we'll address that. So regarding seeker, on June 22nd, 2023, the board adopted a negative declaration for the 8-lot subdivision application. However, given the significant changes to the application, increasing the total acreage, number of lots, and points of access, among other things, if the applicant decides to proceed with the preliminary review of the subdivision plot, the secret review will be reopened for further analysis. So the neg deck is obviously, we have to get further into process to figure out.
We're going to revisit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, our hope, we're here for sketch plan review tonight. If we could get your board's endorsement of the sketch plan, we would then come back and submit a complete preliminary plat application, and we would then begin that formal process next month. And we totally get that your board, during that preliminary plat process, would need to revisit and amend the neg deck during that process to reflect the current layout.
Okay, understood. So
If
you
I could
want-
just add, just in response to the public comment, look, every community is sensitive to stormwater these days. Our development team knows the issues, and Dan will be providing, a SWIP that fully complies with the DEC Stormwater Design Manual, your town's regulations, and will obviously be reviewed by Mr. Tremelli. So we hear the concerns, and we will take stormwater seriously and respond to all these comments during the process.
Thank you.
Yep. And just so the public, because this is, obviously, we all live in Eastchester, we all have, at various points, stormwater issues. I don't think there's a member of this board who has expertise in stormwater management. So we rely very heavily on the input. We rely on the applicants and the applicants' experts, but we really depend that much more on the consultants who are impartial and are giving us, we would hope, their very candid opinion. And we have to rely on that because, as I said, we're not experts in this area. And I don't know that there are members of the public out there who have sufficient expertise to be able to inform us either. We all have anecdotes about, this horrible storm and the, all the pumping I need to do in my basement. And believe me, I can sympathize with that. But we do, particularly on issues like this that are very technical issues, we do rely very heavily on our consultants.
And I think we didn't want to go into it now with Ms. Brescia's comments, but I'm sure if we speak to our consultant, he'll be able to address more clearly, at least better than I could, about some of the issues you brought up. So I kind of stay away from it because let's wait to get all the experts in the room, and then we'll try and address those issues a little more clearly.
Perfect.
So that's all I have to say. Oh, I have one more thing to say. Hold on. And that is,
Do you need to move to keep the public hearing open?
yeah, I'm going to. But before I do that, we're going to, I think we can do this. I'm going to make a motion then about the major subdivision, because this is clearly a major subdivision. So I'm going to make a motion to classify this application, 2302, 203 Beach Street, 104 and 108 Highland Avenue subdivision, as a major subdivision, and authorize the application to submit the preliminary plot review. And then the public hearing of this application will remain open for review of the preliminary plot application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That means go do your thing, come back.
Terrific, thank you.
Lot more.
We do expect to submit in June, so we hope to see you one more time before the summer. So enjoy the holiday weekend, we'll see you next month.
All right.
Right, I guess you said you want our thumbs up on your preliminary review. I guess you got it by the fact that we've sort of requested you to go and continue.
Yep.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Appreciate the feedback, and thank you. We'll see you next
You're
month.
welcome.
Yeah.
That's it. Great, thank you, gentlemen. So then I make a motion, we have nothing else to do here, guys, we can go home. I make a motion to adjourn the May 23rd, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Next meeting is June 27th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.